Norway, social movement mobilized against the Nobel Committee's decision to award the Nobel Peace Prize to Venezuelan far-right Maria Corina Machado. The head of state, Nicolás Maduro, stated on Tuesday that the National Council for Productive Economy has been an instrument of national consensus that has enabled the growth of the country's new economy and will turn the nation into a multi-diverse export hub in the coming years. And Honduran President Xiomara Castro said Tuesday she will denounce before the international community the electoral coup going on in her country. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. This Tuesday, Norwegian social movements demonstrated in rejection of the Nobel Committee's decision to award the Nobel Peace Prize to the representative of the Venezuelan far-right, Maria Corina Machado. Precisely, an alliance of Norwegian organizations dedicated to peace and solidarity called for a massive demonstration on December 9th and the 10th in front of the Norwegian Nobel Institute in Oslo, stating that the committee's decision contradicts the spirit of Alfred Nobel's will to reward efforts for disarmament and for peaceful resolution of conflicts. They pointed out that Maria Corina publicly supports a military intervention against Venezuela by the U.S. government, the unilateral coercive measures imposed on the country, and is linked to violent and destabilizing actions. Maria Corina Machado is said to receive the Nobel Peace Prize in Oslo on December 10th, on the anniversary of Alfred Nobel's death. In this context, the network of intellectuals and artists in defense of humanity signed a letter to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee denouncing its choice of Maria Corina Machado to receive the award this year prior to the presentation of the medals on December 10th. The statement reads, "The United States government has made public its intention to overthrow the legitimate government of Venezuela with the aim of taking over the world's largest oil reserves." They also stated, "In the midst of this clear violation of the Charter of the United Nations and international law, we are faced with the unpleasant news that your committee has decided to award this year's prize to the main promoter of war, the invasion of our own country, and the destabilization of Venezuela and the entire region, Maria Corina Machado." The organization continued, "We, lovers of peace, repudiate wars and will continue to fight for genuine and true peace, which can only be understood as a right of peoples indivisible from their self-determination and the defense of their sovereignty." They ended by saying, "After the grotesque ceremony you will hold on December 10th, you will no longer have any moral authority to speak of peace or justice, words that you manipulate at will to satisfy the geopolitical ambitions of the United States. These words are the exclusive heritage of peoples fighting for their sovereignty." In Palestine, the Al-Hello International Hospital in the Gaza Strip urges for donations and funding to guarantee the blood transfusions of patients with thalassemia. The suffering of the sick is intensified due to the shortage of blood units and filters at the medical center, forcing them to choose alternatives that affect their daily lives. The lack of food, medicines, and special supplies, as well as the continuous shortage of blood donations, add to the list of complications patients face in continuing with their daily lives. In this regard, those affected and the health authorities have issued a call for help to address this situation. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, a series of airstrikes carried out by the Israeli army hit several localities in the south of the country. According to Lebanese media reports, Israeli warplanes launched at least 6 airstrikes on Mount Safi and several other locations in the Iklim al-Tufa area, resulting in explosions and the formation of dense smoke columns. The Israeli Air Force also attacked the Wadi Ase area located between the districts of Nabatie and Sidon, thereby expanding the radius of the ongoing attack on Lebanese territory. In this context, the United Nations Security Council stressed the importance of fully implementing Resolution 1701, which calls for an immediate ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and much more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The head of state, Nicolás Maduro, stated on Tuesday that the National Council for Productive Economy has been an instrument of national consensus that has enabled the growth of the country's new economy and will turn the nation into a multi-diverse export hub in the coming years. During the National Council of Productive Economy, the president announced the major achievements of Venezuelan economic development during 2025, including significant milestones in the pharmaceutical sector. He also indicated that industrial capacity is approaching 50% growth. On the other hand, the president signed a decree establishing the Unified Protocol for Non-Oil Exports, Postal Services, and related activities with the aim of boosting the country's diversified economy with agricultural, fishing, and community products, among other strategic sectors. The head of state explained that amid the ongoing context of economic aggression, there are still elements that need to be consolidated. And during his participation in the National Economic Council, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro called all economic factors to accomplish the goal of producing everything in Venezuela and carry out a radical substitution of imports.
With you, businessmen, creators of wealth, with the technology and the Venezuelan science, we have to accomplish that short-term goal. I'm not talking about 3 years, I am talking about the short term, and through phases we have to produce everything in Venezuela, and there the line is very clear: a substitution, a radical substitution of imports.
And in Venezuela, the president of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, denounced that today the Caribbean Sea has become a field of horror where more than 80 people have been killed by U.S. military actions. During an ordinary session of the National Assembly, the president, Jorge Rodriguez, condemned the acts of violence and extermination that have taken place in the Caribbean and how the International Criminal Court has failed to act in response to this situation, describing its representatives as slaves and puppets of the interests of the United States. Also, the president denounced that peace has been distorted, pointing out that even the Nobel Prize has been awarded to the person who has called for military invasions against Venezuela. And on the other hand, Rodriguez highlighted that to date, 1,046 unilateral coercive measures have been imposed against Venezuela's economy and pointed out that their main objective is to attack the nation through economic siege.
¿Para qué carajo sirve esa Corte Penal Internacional?
What the hell is that International Criminal Court used for? Why was it founded? And what's the use of it? The world was horrified when, immediately after World War I, they appeared and emerged. There were no social networks, nor cell phones.
Aparecieron, emergieron, no habían redes sociales, no habían teléfonos celulares.
And only the presence of the Red Army, of the Soviet Army, in the countries of Eastern Europe, could show the planet the extent of the horror inside the concentration camps in Eastern Europe and Germany.
Contenido en los campos de concentración en el este de Europa y en Alemania.
And as a result of that perception, of that the feeling that remained in all the humankind that fundamental principles of the human condition had been violated, the United Nations was created.
de la condición del ser humano, entonces apareció Naciones Unidas, apareció la
The
Convención
Geneva Convention of 1949 was signed, and all organizations seeking no other objective, according to their foundation documents, according to the written word, than the defense of humanity, and the punishment of crimes against humanity.
en caso de que se cometan delitos con.
And in this context as well, the President of the National Assembly also denounced the subordination of some international bodies to the U.S. interest and affirmed that the U.S. government only attacks the free countries.
Porque están completamente a merced de sus dueños.
Because they are completely at the mercy of their owners. And it is such a paradox because their owners are obviously the U.S. State Department, but it turns out that the U.S. did not sign the Rome Statute. Hypocritically, Clinton approved it when he was president.
Estatuto de Roma. Hipócritamente lo aprobó. Clinton era presidente, pero al día siguiente.
But the next day George Bush took office and a few months later he refused to sign it. In other words, the United States is not a signatory to the Rome Statute. They didn't even take a newspaper clipping. Sorry for the archaism.
Quieren agarrar un recorte de periódico, perdónenme el arcaísmo. Un recorte de periódico no, una página web de un
They
periódico.
didn't even take the web page of a newspaper to paste it into a report about the sanctions. They don't care. They are not there to administer justice or defend human rights. They are there to attack free peoples. They are there to make life impossible and ruin the lives of the countries that the United States orders them to ruin.
A los países que Estados Unidos les ordena que le
And we stay in Venezuela as the country is celebrating 201 years since the Battle of Ayacucho, a milestone in the independence of Hispanic America. This event sealed the freedom of a continent, concretizing the project outlined by the liberator Simón Bolívar, the definitive defeat of Spanish rule in South America. The event was attended by members of the Venezuelan Armed Forces, led by Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez, who highlighted the anti-imperialist and heroic spirit of the heroes of Venezuela and the continuing relevance of the liberators' ideas. In addition, they commemorated the 123rd anniversary of the last proclamation by General Xiomara Castro, who confronted foreign powers and emphasized that the country belongs to the Venezuelan people. Venezuela hosted the Assembly of Peoples for Peace and Sovereignty in America in the face of the United States military threats against the Caribbean. The event takes place in the Venezuelan room of the Military Circle from Tuesday, December 9th to Thursday, December 11th, with the participation of international experts. In this scenario, the dialogue aims to raise awareness and add more voices against the military threat from the United States in the Caribbean, which endangers the security of the region. At Tuesday's meeting, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Iván Gil and Cuban intellectual Abel Prieto denounced the ongoing menace to our peoples and urged action for peace. And in other news, also the president of Cuba's Casa de las Americas expressed his admiration for Venezuela's response to the growing military threat from the United States in the Caribbean.
And I want to tell you that our people, the people of Cuba, have followed every detail of this escalation, this criminal escalation, all the lies, one after another. They use lies as a weapon of war, constantly to confuse the friends of the world in an attempt to divide the people of Cuba, the people of Venezuela, and the response of President Nicolas Maduro, and the Venezuelan people to this escalation has been truly admirable.
Also, the President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodríguez, condemned the United States' alleged fight against drug trafficking.
Y como siempre,
And, as always, in a display of hypocrisy, they used flimsy excuses. President Maduro has labeled them as an absolutely slanderous and extravagant narrative, and it is
narrativa absolutamente calumniosa, extravagante. Y lo es.
in a supposed program to fight drugs. He said it well, paraphrasing the great commander Fidel Castro, more doctors, less bullets.
Más médicos, menos balas. El problema de la dependencia de sustancias psicoactivas.
The problem of psychoactive substance dependency is a medical problem, a health problem, a family problem, and it must be addressed in all its aspects.
Debe ser atendido en todos sus elementos.
And now we have a second show break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, that you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Fun show break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. On Tuesday, in the United States, the race to become Miami's next mayor is underway. In this context, Republicans are hoping Miami City Manager Emilio Gonzalez helps them retain their nearly 30-year-old on the mayor's office, backed by President Donald Trump's endorsement. On the other hand, Democrats hope former County Commissioner Aileen Higgins can continue their party's national overperformance in special elections. Let's recall that Higgins led after the first round of voting on November 4th, with 35% of the vote to Gonzalez' 19%. A defeat for Republicans in Miami could add a new twist to the plan to build Trump's presidential library downtown. And now we go to Honduras. The president, Xiomara Castro, said Tuesday she will denounce before the international community the electoral coup going on in her country. The president of the Central American country also informed she will launch a diplomatic offensive before international organizations such as CELAC and the United Nations to denounce the interference of U.S. President Donald Trump in Honduras' democratic life by releasing former president and drug lord Juan Orlando Hernandez. Castro also condemned the actions of her U.S. counterpart in pressuring Hondurans to vote in favor of right-wing candidate Nasri Asfura and recalled the irregularities that led to what she described as a colossal election fraud.
Pero vivimos un proceso marcado por amenazas.
We are experiencing a process marked by threats, coercion, manipulation by the TREP, and alteration of the will of the people. These actions constitute an ongoing electoral coup that we will denounce before the United Nations.
En Naciones Unidas, la Unión Europea, CELAC, la OEA y otros organismos internacionales.
The European Union, CELAC, the OAS, and other international organizations. My duty as president and as a woman who emerged from the resistance is to defend democracy,
La dignidad nacional y la voluntad soberana del pueblo. Ese es un mandato inquebrantable.
national dignity, and the sovereign will of the people. That is an unbreakable mandate in our Constitution. That is why I affirm these elections, as revealed by the 26 audio recordings presented, are void.
Están viciados de nulidad.
And now we go to Argentina. The State Workers Association, ATE, is leading a national strike with a march to the National Congress in protest against labor reform and the policies of Javier Milei's government. The labor reform document, which will be submitted to Congress for debate on Wednesday, includes changes to working hours and compensation. In this regard, the workers' union considers that the modification of labor legislation constitutes a setback that undermines the rights. State delegations from different areas of the country are participating in the rally and central protest against this measure, supporting the AT's argument that the national and local governments are responsible for supporting neoliberal policies. Let's recall that according to data released by the Workers' Union, Argentine state workers have lost more than 33% of their purchasing power in the last 23 months, which is why they are demanding an urgent salary adjustment. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at teleSUR English. media, we are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For teleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.